Keep pressing the button, it'll go faster.
The best part of this is somewhere a software engineer thinks that's okay. You can just make your users keep hitting the button, and eventually it might work, it might not.
Yeah, there was no indicator that it was working or waiting on something. Just
keep it. You got to keep them guessing. That's all part of the show, right? Welcome everybody to the Kelly Wendland podcast. We have some very special guests today, Stephen Clark and Phil Almeroth. How are you gentlemen doing this fine afternoon?
Very well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Doing very well. Welcome to winter in Minnesota.
Phil, I feel disappointed that we don't get to see your shining face on this video. You say that your computer's not working. Is that a cop out because it's a bad hair day, or?
No, the hair day is fine. I had an early morning appointment that I had to be at actually this morning. It's just my computer's running really slow. So
yeah,
probably more important to hear me than see me.
Well, we won't argue one way or the other with that.
I didn't say what you'd prefer.
Yes, exactly. So one thing I was thinking about this strategy management consulting, which you guys do, and I was thinking back to actually the Super Bowl commercial. I think it was a Super Bowl commercial where they talk to the management consultants and they say, well, we can tell you what to do, but we don't actually do it. And I think, when I reflect over 25 years in consulting, there was a time when it actually was accepted for that to be a thing where one consulting group would say, we can tell you what to do, we can't actually implement it. I feel like that's changed, and customers today expect you to be able to operationalize it if you say this is what you should do. Am I right or wrong on that?
Go ahead, Stephen. You're nodding.
Oh, I think there's a lot of truth in what you're getting at. I think we've seen a real evolution, and perhaps it's one of the positives to the birth of the internet, right? So, as collaboration and decentralized solution and innovation timelines have shrunk, I think the nimble, the creative, the curious have found new and different ways to work together that really blow up those old boundaries. And for folks who maybe thought they had exclusive relationships where they didn't need to do that, I think we've done end runs around them. And so then I think everybody has really, other than maybe some of those big media ad buyers, come to realize, boy, there's a different way of working that feels better as a customer. And is differently stimulating to provide as a thought leader in the strategy consulting space. Where does your head go, Phil?
Well, I agree, and it's always been strange to me. It even causes cognitive dissonance when companies don't do what they preach either. And so anything we would be telling our customers to do, seems to me we ought to be doing the same thing. A, it does give credence to what we're talking about. B, it shows that we can implement it. And it does get away from the cobbler's children syndrome, where they had the worst shoes in town because spent so much time fixing everybody else's shoes. And so I agree. There's that aspect of it where bringing somebody else in to implement someone else's ideas isn't a good thing anymore, and people are looking for that.
What when people come to you guys for quote unquote management consulting or strategic consulting, what does that look like? Is there a common kind of question they come with these days, or what kind of things do people come to you guys with for that level of expertise?
It can take, in my mind, a variety of views coming in or what it looks like. But a lot of it seems to center around, A, we either have a strong sense of what we want to do, we just don't know the steps to realize it. Or B, we're really good at implementing stuff, but we don't have a strong sense of strategically where we would need to go next. So it kind of fits in either of those categories of what they're really looking for help for. They're also looking for someone to help them give the head nod in the same direction. We think this is right. What's your thoughts? Are we going in the right direction? And one of the things we'll probably talk about in a little bit is really getting them to focus externally rather than do the navel gazing that a lot of companies typically do when they say, "Here's what we do well, and here's where we want to go."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a lot of interest in the breaking down of the silos, the common problem of multiple business units that are running independently, and because the market is forcing efficiency, executives have to figure out how to use centralized services or communal kind of thought across multiple business lines, and they don't quite know how to get that done, or they don't have time to figure out how to do it. Is that something that that we see pretty regularly these days? Is that still a thing?
I definitely think that's a thing. There's a couple different directions that inbound inquiries for support, can come from. We've got organizations in the SMB space that are growing organically and trying to figure out how to scale through professionalization of their leadership teams beyond original founders and partners or maybe family members, and the dynamics to building teams that don't have that from the beginning identity and narrative or storyline require a set of strategic enablers. And similarly, in very large organizations that are maybe going through divestiture or have enough liquidity that in down markets see this as a buyer's opportunity for acquisition, they're similarly challenged with figuring out, okay, where are the opportunities to replicate what we know works well amongst communities that are newest to the sort of proverbial family. And that matchmaking, those pattern finding, um, and those capability, and I mean that, in a business operational set of terms, set of challenges can be very different than being successful at creating the business and running the business. So if they can find folks who've done that like we have, and we get a chance to listen, ask sort of the classic five whys, open-ended and non-specific enough questions for enough time to figure out likely where our spidey sense points us. Um, we can operate in all of those environments in pretty similar ways to equally positive outcome.
We have a
Is it? Oh, go ahead.
colleague, Jeremy Mann, who says companies are perfectly constructed to achieve the results they're getting today. And that includes their organizational structure as well as the people, the process, the tools, the data that they have. Um, if you take a look at that and look through an organization's rearview mirror, it's going to look really nice. The strategy is about looking ahead, looking at the horizon, and trying to understand how and why you're gonna or how and why you're gonna do the things you do to achieve that strategy.
Yeah, I wonder about that, and in my mind, in my simple view of it, in some ways, there's project management and then program management, and the program manager is responsible for managing a bunch of project people that have some loosely or maybe closely tied kind of objectives throughout a enterprise or an area. Management consulting seems to be more executives have a vision and they want to bounce it off someone who's had experience in that area before, and then maybe hand it off to that management consultant who can then figure out how to operationalize it. Is that one way to think of where program management ends and management consulting begins, or something?
So we've talked about this before, but there's in every organization there's three kinds of work. There's research, there's projects, and there's operations. Operations is the status quo. Projects are what you do to change the status quo. Research, which I think management consulting falls into that core category, is what could the new status quo be? And looking at options, trying to understand how best it could fit for it, a company's set of product services, their customer base, any new customers they want to attract, etc. So that's more research or discovering what could be versus taking what we want and changing the status quo to be something different. And to me, that's the difference. What you're talking about, Kelly, is program management. Yes, it takes into a number of different factors beyond a specific project. It has a number of projects that are doing there. But even to get to program management, you have to set intent. You have to have something for them to actually manage. Whereas in the research area and management consulting, you're really working with companies about what could be.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. I think some of these high level distinctions around uh, motivations behind continuing to do more of what we're already good at in spaces where we haven't operated before, as opposed to making uh, disinvestment, kill decisions to free up conceivably liquidity to do the research and some of the projects to institutionalize new maybe capital expenditures in primary business arenas that organizations want to continue to be market leaders all require a set of trade off analyses that sometimes leaders perhaps don't feel either empowered or like they've got the bandwidth and availability to add on to their full-time day jobs. And so those are all arenas where we can bring these understandings of those three different sets of work that Phil spoke to, and look for sort of opportunistically, very realistically, ways to shift the mix, so to speak.
What about the consultants? The other side of this. Often, I talk to consultants who are project or program managers who want to be management consultants. How do you begin on that journey? What does it take to make that gap? To bridge that gap and become a management consulting. What skills, what background, what experience in your mind helps a person get there? I'm not doing a good job of picking
No,
one
it's a
here.
great,
No, that could
it's a great question. I'm sure all of our wheels are
it,
spinning. I can't see Phil, but that's
Yeah.
a real
trying to
thought provoker. Yeah, yeah.
trying to figure out a way to fit it into the next 5 minutes of conversation because that's weeks of conversation. But I think a couple things are like anything else, understanding what it is you do best. What understanding is it about the work that attracts you to it? Because not every project manager and program manager can become a management consultant, and vice versa. Um, it's if you have a bent towards implementation, getting things done, making sense out of chaos, that program and project management is probably best for you. If you're really good at helping companies ideate and figure out what could be, and also help them make decisions, strategy decisions, it's just as important to say what you're not going to do as it is to say what you're going to do. And leading people to those decisions so that they become theirs, not yours, versus now we have a set intent and we want to implement something and make that happen through whatever it is, vendors, employees, change in systems, change in strategy, etc. So it's two different kinds of work. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to take the knowledge you've gained in doing one of those kinds of works and immediately apply it. Um, but that's where I usually look at, especially in program and project managers. People have an ability to make sense out of chaos, get things done, and working with other people.
So is a management consultant born or made?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. The old consultant answer. Well, it depends.
Yeah.
But it is both. Again, there's an orientation, and obviously our orientations are comprised of our experiences, our knowledge, our understanding. Um, like I said, the things that attract us to certain types of work. Everybody has different areas. Somebody could be a really, really good engineer, but not be able to take the step to leading people. There's all kinds of things. Early in my career, one of my managers, I was a business analyst at the time, and one day she just looked at me and said, "As an analyst, you're a really good project manager." It's like, okay, I understand what you're seeing, what the things that I do well, but also the things I'm not able to apply to a different kind of work. So,
That was a really nice way to tell you sucked as an analyst.
well, I, I can honestly say I didn't, but it did take me a lot longer to get to places other people could get to quicker. And that was again the orientation toward the work.
Yeah, I know, Phil. We've
No,
known each other a
that's
long time, so I
it's
thought I was just having fun with you.
no problem. I understand, and that was great feedback that she gave me. Made a big change in my career.
Well, Stephen Clark, Phil Almeroth, I could talk to you guys a long, long time, but we keep them short here, as you both know. Thank you for your time this afternoon. If anybody here has questions about our management consulting or is trying to get into management consulting, I would recommend you reach out to Stephen or Phil, and I'm sure they're happy to talk to you about what in their opinions you might do to help as you get along your career towards that goal. So, you are listening to the Kelly Wendland podcast. Have a great Friday.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Kelly.
guys. All right. See ya.